The bustling village of Blossom Hollow buzzed with excitement. In exactly 1 week, the Great Garden Festival would arrive, and every animal dreamed of winning the golden watering can for the most magnificent garden in all the land. Tempo the turtle stood at the edge of his empty plot, a small compass strapped to his shell and a worn notebook clutched in his claws. All winter long, while other animals hibernated or played in the snow, Tempo had studied. He'd read about soil pH and companion planting. He'd sketched garden layouts by candlelight until his eyes grew heavy. Now, as the first warm breeze of spring tickled his nose, Tempo pressed his ruler into the dirt and began measuring. Sunlight reaches this corner for exactly 3 hours each morning, he muttered, making careful marks with a stick. So the shade-loving lettuce goes here, and the tomatoes. Yes, the tomatoes need the south side. Across the meadow, the 3 Hare brothers were already done. They'd spent all of 10 minutes scattering carrot seeds in messy rows, and now they lounged under an oak tree, munching clover. "Hey, Tempo," called the biggest hare, Harvey. "Why are you still measuring? We finished ages ago." Tempo looked up, his neck stretching slowly. "Healthy roots need proper spacing," he said gently. "I want to do this right." Harvey snorted. "By the time you're done planning, the festival will be over. Just throw seeds in the ground like normal animals." The other hares laughed and bounded away. Tempo felt his chest tighten. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was wasting time. He looked at his empty plot, then at the hare's already planted garden, and doubt crept into his heart like a weed. But then he remembered his grandfather's words. The wise turtle knows that speed is nothing without direction. Tempo took a deep breath, picked up his ruler, and kept measuring. By day 15, Tempo's back ached from digging. His claws were caked with dirt. While the crows had finished planting their sunflowers in a single chaotic afternoon, Tempo had spent 2 full weeks preparing his soil, mixing in compost, and creating perfectly spaced rows. "You're going to lose, cawed Cressida the crow, perched on a fence post. Her sunflowers were already sprouting in a crowded, haphazard clump. "Look how big mine are already." Tempo wiped sweat from his brow. His tomato seedlings were still tiny, barely poking through the earth. "Different plants grow at different speeds," he said quietly. But inside, worry gnawed at him. What if he really was too slow? That night, Tempo couldn't sleep. He lay in his shell, listening to the cricket songs, wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. Should he give up his careful plans and just rush like everyone else? At dawn, he dragged himself back to his garden. And there, gleaming with morning dew, were his tomato seedlings, small but healthy, their leaves a deep, vibrant green. Tempo's heart lifted. They were perfect. Every single one stood straight and strong. "Hello, little ones," he whispered, gently touching a leaf. "We're doing just fine, aren't we?" By day 30, the spring winds arrived with a vengeance. Tempo watched from his garden as Cressida's towering sunflowers, planted too close together and grown too fast, swayed dangerously. Their stems were thin and weak. Suddenly, crack! 3 of them snapped in half, tumbling to the ground. Cressida shrieked and flew in frantic circles, but there was nothing she could do. Tempo's bean plants, meanwhile, climbed steadily up the sturdy wooden lattice he'd spent 3 days building. The wind made them dance, but the strong structure held firm. Tempo had even driven the posts extra deep, just in case. Better safe than sorry, he'd told himself while digging. Now he was grateful for every extra minute of work. Day 50 brought a heat wave that turned the meadow brown and crispy. Tempo noticed the butterfly's lavender patch, planted in a shady corner without thought, was wilting and sad. His marigolds, positioned exactly where the afternoon sun would kiss them, blazed orange and gold like little flames. Still, Tempo didn't rest. Every evening, he checked each plant, adjusting the soil, removing weeds before they could take hold, and talking softly to his vegetables. "You're doing wonderful," he'd whisper to a growing tomato. "Just a little more time." The morning before the festival, dark clouds rolled across the sky like a bruise. Thunder rumbled. Then the rain came. Not a gentle shower, but a furious downpour that turned the meadow into a churning river. Tempo huddled under a leaf, watching in horror as water flooded across the gardens. Harvey's carrots drowned in their cramped, poorly drained rows. The fox's radish patch became a swirling pond. Seeds and soil washed away in muddy streams. But then Tempo noticed something. The trenches he'd dug last week, the ones that had taken him 2 full days of backbreaking work, were doing exactly what he'd designed them to do. They channeled the excess water around his garden like a protective moat, sending it safely away. His plants bent under the rain but didn't break. His lattice held strong. The mulch he'd laid down kept the soil from washing away. When the storm finally passed and the sun emerged, Tempo climbed out from his shelter, hardly daring to hope. His heart pounded as he surveyed his garden. Everything stood, battered but unbroken, beautiful and whole. Festival morning arrived with golden sunshine and clean-washed air. Tempo's neighbors trudged toward the judging area, dragging what remained of their gardens. Wilted flowers, broken stems, muddy, half-formed vegetables. Then they saw Tempo's plot. It was magnificent. Tomatoes hung like red jewels from healthy vines. Bean plants cascaded over the lattice in emerald waterfalls. Marigolds formed perfect borders of gold and orange. Strawberries nestled in straw mulch, their fruit plump and glistening. Even the lettuce stood in neat, crisp rows, each leaf catching the light. Harvey's jaw dropped. "How?" he breathed. "The storm destroyed everything. How did yours survive?" Cressida landed beside him, her eyes wide. "It's perfect. Every single plant." Tempo had just the little compass on his shell, feeling shy under all the staring eyes. "I planted slowly so the roots could grow deep," he explained. "I watered carefully, giving each plant what it needed. I built my lattice strong and dug trenches for drainage. Every day I checked on them little by little, learning what they needed." The fox stepped forward. "But that must have taken so much time. Didn't you get frustrated? Didn't you want to just be done with it?" Tempo nodded. "Many times, especially when you all finished before me. I felt slow and foolish." His voice grew stronger. "But my grandfather taught me that the best things can't be rushed. A seed knows how long it needs to become a flower." The judges arrived, 3 wise owls with clipboards and spectacles. They walked through every garden, taking notes. When they reached Tempo's plot, they stopped and hooted softly in amazement. "In all my years," said the head judge, "I have never seen such thoughtful cultivation. The health of each plant, the strategic layout, the resilience of the design. This is not just gardening. This is artistry born of patience." They placed the golden watering can at Tempo's feet. The crowd erupted in cheers. But something even more wonderful happened next. Harvey approached, shuffling his large feet. "Tempo, could you teach me?" For next year, me too, chirped Cressida, and me added the fox. Soon, a whole group of animals surrounded Tempo, asking questions, taking notes, wanting to learn the secrets of slow, steady, careful work. Tempo's heart swelled until he thought it might burst. Of course, he said, smiling, "We can start tomorrow. Bring your rulers and notebooks. The first lesson is, always begin by listening to the soil." From that day forward, the Blossom Hollow Festival became more than a competition. It became a celebration of patience, of learning, of understanding that the most beautiful things in life, gardens, friendships, dreams, cannot be rushed. And every spring, when the first warm breeze arrived, you could find Tempo in the meadow, surrounded by eager students, teaching them to measure carefully, plant thoughtfully, and trust that with time and dedication, even the tiniest seed can become something grand. Because Tempo had learned the greatest secret of all. Persistence and patience aren't about being slow. They're about being steady. And steady wins not just the race, but something far more valuable, the deep, quiet satisfaction of work done right.